Hello there. Hello there. I think it is working now. Can you guys give me some feedback? Let me know if it is working now. Yeah. Thank you, Noel. Thank you for answering. Thank you, Kobe. Yes, it looks like there was an issue with the microphone being selected. But I think we are good now. Yay! All right, thumbs up. Thank you, guys. All right. Welcome, Kitty. All right, so let's get started. Any initial topics for our live stream? Just a recap of what we discussed last time. For the fourth time, the Brazilian government has postponed the requirement for citizens from the U.S., Canada, and Australia to present a visa when entering Brazil. There was a fight between the federal government, the President Lula administration, and the Brazilian Congress. And in order to save face, the Brazilian federal administration, they postponed the requirement, okay? Because the Congress said if you enforce the visa requirement, we're gonna override your decision through a bill in Congress, and that would look pretty bad on the presidency, and therefore that's why they decided to postpone. All right, thank you guys for confirming. I see we are all set with the sound. There is a question from MK Sneed. Is the visa still for 90 days? Only change is the price is now $0 for visa. So it really depends on your nationality, okay? But the standard in Brazil is for you to get 90 days per either a year or 180 days. Okay, there is a specific page. There is a specific page from the Brazilian government. I'm gonna see if I can share the link for this page so you can take a look at it. And it does bring like the timeline for each nationality, right? Some nationalities, yes, I got it. I'm gonna share the link over here so you guys can check by yourself. Just share the link. It's in Portuguese, but if you find the name for your country, you're gonna see the VIVIS, VIVIS. That's basically the visitor visa, and then you're gonna find a number such as number 1 or number 4. And number 1 it means that you do need a visa, okay. And number 4 it means you don't need a visa, meaning that you are traveling to Brazil under a visa waiver. Which again is the case for citizens from the U.S., Canada, and Australia as we speak, for up to 90 days. Okay, and then you're gonna see other cases. There's some exceptions. For instance, you can travel to Brazil under a visa waiver, but you don't have the 90 days. You're gonna have just 30 days. Okay, and you can see all of that. On the first page is going to show you the different scenarios, and you see the number and you match to the nationality, and then which rule is going to apply to your case. All right, Kitwell, how is the safety for gringos living in coastal areas in the north? With menos estrutura que bigger cities, right? So, like when you have a bigger city, of course, like you have all the, the police force in major locations. So what Kitty is like asking over here is like if you go, like to other areas. Let's say if you are in Fortaleza, Fortaleza has a very decent police and safety infrastructure. But once you go to other areas, let's say you are in Fortaleza, if you go, to Canoa Quebrada, if you go to Morro Branco, or if you go to Jericoacoara, those places, they were originally like fisherman villages, and they actually have, a lot of fishermen as we speak still, and they don't have the same, of course, the same safety network that you would find in Fortaleza, for instance. But still, I think they are, reasonably safe for gringos, right? As long as you do apply, the usual, like care of not being, flashy in terms of, wearing a Rolex or not showing up with, like a pile of cash on your hands, right? You need to be discreet and you need to have a common sense, but it is pretty safe, okay? In Sierra, I have a participation in a kind of small resort in the Sierra area. I'm gonna see here if I can share the link with you guys, and we have foreign citizens staying over there pretty much every single week. Every single week we have foreign citizens, they go over there. This is in a more secluded area of Sierra, so there's no like police close by. We don't have like those huge walls. We have like easy access to the resort, even from the beach, and we never had a single problem, like any time in our history. Okay, so just letting you know, pretty safe, but just like everywhere else, like you can never be careful enough. Meaning that I always recommend for you, to be aware and try again to avoid anything that could bring some risk to you. I'm still trying to find here the right account. Unfortunately, I'm not finding the account for this resort. Yes, I'm gonna share with you guys next time. Okay. All right, now we have a KK Bom dia. I have a Viper from 2017, moving back permanently in August. Married to a Carioca since 2001. Stayed there several times since I got the Viper. All right, let me see. Moving back permanently. How do they count? From visa issuance date from August. KKK, maybe I'm missing the question. I just have here the statement, right? I have a Viper from 2017, moving back permanently in August, married to a Carioca since 2001, stayed there several times since I got the Viper. Right, so maybe the question is like, when can you apply for the citizenship? But let us know the question, and I will try to answer to the best of my ability. Kobe, all right, Kobe. To get a Viper visa, it says online that there is a requirement of good health. How can someone prove this, and what health conditions need to be met? Well, we've been applying for the Viper visa for a while. We never had to prove any type of standard of health. It's probably more a preemptive requirement, right? Like maybe someone is in really poor health and then they are going to need, for instance, special accommodations to either apply for the visa or, to attend an appointment with Polícia Federal. So they could have that as a more kind of preemptive requirement to avoid people asking for special accommodations, okay? But we never provided, as far as I remember, and we do have a good number of Viper visas approved and applied over the years. And it's not like the U.S. green card. For the U.S. green card, I know you actually go through very thorough health examinations, not only by very specific, like physician who works closely with the U.S. consulates in Brazil, but you also need to do like, blood lab exams and a bunch of other things. So it's really thorough. For Brazil, no such a thing, okay? Like, the maximum they could ask for, it would be for a health insurance, okay, for you to have a health insurance, which I don't recall right off the bat. I don't think it's even a requirement, okay, but that would be like worst case scenario. You're going to need to provide health insurance, but I never heard, like we never had to request one of our clients to go through like physical examination to secure the Viper visa. All right. Wasain Shaduri, welcome. Wasain, I'm Pakistani, but living in Saudi Arabia for 30 years for work. I plan to buy a house in Brazil worth like 800,000 reais. Want to know the legal way to transfer. All right, so I assume, like you're not saying over here, but I assuming if you're buying a house for 800,000 reais, maybe you are after the Viper visa, right? The real estate investment residency or visa. And if that's the case, the standard way of paying for the property is to send the funds directly to the seller, okay? And most people are going to do that. They're just going to make a payment directly to the seller. The concern here is that if you just send the money from your bank straight to the seller's bank, you're not going to be able to time the release of the money with the closing. So for our clients, and actually even like clients from other law firms, when the law firm doesn't have experience with currency exchange, sometimes we're going to offer the component of currency exchange alone, meaning that we're going to get you set up with a currency exchange bank in Brazil, so you can send the money still to the seller, right? Like the money doesn't come to us, it doesn't come to another party, it goes straight to the seller, but it's going to pass through the currency exchange bank. And then because the money is passing through the currency exchange bank, we can time the release of the money. So the currency exchange bank is going to park your money, and they are not going to release the funds into the seller's bank account until we give the currency exchange bank the green light, okay? So that's how we do here at the firm, and we actually do it no matter if you are applying for the visa or you're not applying for the visa. Like we have many real estate clients that are married to a Brazilian spouse, so they don't really need the Viper visa because they could get residency through marriage, but they still need help with this component because particularly for people from the US and the UK, and other countries in which you usually pay through an escrow, to pay the seller up front and just hope for the best is not usually something that they want to do, okay? So they come to us, again, not only our own clients, but clients from other firms. They say, listen, I want you to assist me with the payment. And then we're going to help, these clients with the payment. All right. Ronnie Dio can you give an example of what should be on a purchase agreement and what should not be on it when buying a home? Yes, I can tell you, like, we're probably gonna address some of the distinctions that exist when you have like a foreign citizen buying property in Brazil. The first one, I believe, is gonna be like the timeline between you sign the contract and the closing. Not surprisingly, like realtors and the sellers as well, they're gonna push for a closing as fast as possible. They wanna get the money, right? And realtors they go overboard when pushing for a quick transaction. So sometimes they are gonna suggest like 15 days. Sometimes they're going to suggest like 30 days. Our recommendation is that you don't have less than 60 days between signing the contract and closing. And the reason for that is because foreign citizens, they are going to need to present very specific documents and sometimes difficult to obtain documents, such as if you're buying as a single person or as a divorcee, meaning someone who divorced in the past, you're going to need to provide a birth certificate with an apostille, right? That there are two pronunciations, an apostille or an apostille. And you cannot get an apostille on a copy of a birth certificate. So for most people, they are going to need to issue a new birth certificate, and after you issue a new birth certificate, you will need to get the apostille on top of the birth certificate that you got, right? So for example, like clients in New York, when they don't have a birth certificate at hand, and they need to order a new one and get an apostille, usually it's going to take them up to 40 days just to get this document, right? So if you are not being advised by an attorney and you happen to sign a purchase agreement saying that you're going to attend the closing in 30 days, and you don't have the paperwork required to perform in 30 days, you may incur a fine that could be of up to 10% of the selling price, or even more. Okay, some contracts, they are gonna say that in addition to the 10%, which is gonna happen right off the bat, you could also need to indemnify the seller for losses, okay, for damages, right? So there you go. Like the first requirement would be like 60 days between signing the agreement to the day of closing. That's one of the requirements. Another requirement, for instance, if we are assisting with the currency exchange, every single currency exchange bank in Brazil, they are usually going to need the tax return for the seller. And naturally, like some sellers of real estate, they don't want to share their tax return. So particularly when we are assisting with a transaction, we're going to have a clause in the contract saying that the seller will provide not only the tax return, but every document required by the currency exchange bank to allow a proper transfer of money, right? Like, and if you're just using like one of the templates that realtors could have, and there is no, by the way, there is no standard template across the board. In Texas, the U.S., for example, like the Association of Realtors, they do provide a template to be used as a start point. We don't have such a thing in Brazil. So if someone comes up with, well, this is a standard contract, just keep in mind that there is no real standard or template contract in Brazil, and different real estate agencies, they're going to use different stuff. Nowadays, you have some real estate agencies from the U.S. Like Remax, right? Of course, they're franchisees. But the good thing is, like, they have a concern of being fair to clients and buyers in order to keep their franchise, right? So if you're dealing with RE/MAX in Brazil, you actually have a higher chance of avoiding bad transactions, right? I'm not saying it's guaranteed, because even under RE/MAX, like we saw some transactions that were concerning to us. But in average, we know that when we deal with a RE/MAX franchise in Brazil, chances are we're not going to be getting a kind of a crazy type of transaction, right? Like we see very often in the Northeast. I'm going to stop mentioning states by name, because otherwise it's going to look like I have some type of prejudice against some states. But the reality is, the more developed the state, usually, the better real estate services you're going to get, and vice versa. So like in developing states, like in Brazil, we see a lot of, concerning transactions. There is a large number of, people trying to deceive creditors, they have some financial issue and they are upside down. They owe more money than they have in equity. And then they are going to try to sell properties when they should not be selling. And if you buy such properties, you could get entangled in a fight with the creditors, even if you attend a closing and after the title shows your name on it. Okay, so I hope this was helpful, Ronnie. That was just some of the examples. Colby, how much in US dollars do you think someone would need to live a decent life in Brazil? Would around 2,000 to 3,000 be enough? Colby, that's, as you probably expect, this is going to depend on what a decent life is for you in particular, right? You're saying 2,000 to 3,000 US dollars. I would say that if you own a property, right, like in Brazil, $2,000 to $3,000 is more than enough. Like if you're gonna live in the northeast of Brazil, okay. If you're gonna live in a big city, more like towards the south of Brazil, such as São Paulo or Rio de Janeiro, usually $2,000 to $3,000 is not gonna be enough for someone who's coming from abroad. But if you're living in any of the northeast cities, you're probably going to be just fine. You're going to have money, to pay the HOA fees, to buy your groceries, to keep maybe a regular car if you need a car. You can even travel every now and then. You can, go for some, restaurants twice a week, right? You could, have a good time with your friends. You could go out for some drinks. 2,000 to 3,000 would be more than enough, right? Now, if you are living in Rio de Janeiro on the other hand, then this amount may not be enough for those things that I told you, because naturally, Rio de Janeiro is much more expensive than the Northeast. São Paulo, the same thing. São Paulo is the largest city in Brazil, and particularly if you are in a more central location, the cost could be quite high for you, to enjoy life in Brazil. But yes, if you are not if you don't want to have really fancy things in your life in Brazil, and if you are in the northeast of the country, $2,000 to $3,000 is more than enough. I hope that helps, Kobe. Kitwell, General Brasil pergunta: tenho tentado aprender mais sobre o golpe em 1964. Enquanto there is a lot of information on Django, there is far less about Jânio Quadros and his resignation. All right, so Kitty is asking about our political history. 1964 is the date when the military took over, like the leadership or command of our country. Until some years ago, the definition was the golpe. Golpe has a connotation of, like a coup, right? So there was a coup, right? And in Portuguese, instead of a coup, we would say golpe, which has a very negative connotation. Recently, under the President Bolsonaro administration, there was an effort to, reinterpret this period of our history. It is more or less the same period in which, maybe I'm wrong, but there was the McCarthyism in the United States, which was a resistance against the communism, right? So the idea in 1964, it was like, communists, they were infiltrating the government and something should be done about, and there was a lot of, communism ideas and like efforts in Brazil. So the military in Brazil took over the power in Brazil and stayed in control of our nation for a few decades. There was a lot of infight, or it wasn't like a civil war, but there would be President Dilma, right? It was another president in our history that was fighting against the military power, back then. And one of the things she did, she did kidnap, believe it or not, like a U.S. Consul. I'm not sure if he was a consul or if he was a member of the consulate. Maybe I'm mixing up something here, but I'm almost sure that President Dilma. Let me see here if I can retrieve this thing. Yeah, I mean, so she was a socialist, and I know that she did take on arms, like with pistols and rifles, and she was actually working with other, like they would say, revolutionaries against the military regime, okay? And I think until she was a president in Brazil, she was actually precluded from entering the United States because of her activities, right? Now, yes, there was Jango, right? João Goulart, it was one of the presidents. That's, I think, the last civil president before the military took over. And then there was also Jânio Quadros. Jânio Quadros resigned, and I don't recall much about Jânio Quadros. I also remember Jânio Quadros was also a mayor. I'm not sure if a mayor or a governor in São Paulo. So Jânio Quadros is originally from São Paulo. But very interesting period of our history, Kit, and the way people are going to address about this period is going to show is going to give you some hints of their political orientation, right? So if you're talking about someone from a more left wing inclination, they are going to say that this was for sure the coup, and these people were like the devil on earth, and they did a lot of harm to Brazil. If you're talking with someone from a more right wing inclination, they are going to say that this was the best period we have in development in Brazil, because there was a lot of order. Like every single thing that was planned was implemented. Corruption, drop it to all times lows, right? And since I'm here trying to be as neutral as possible, nobody is really like 100% neutral, but I try to show both sides. And maybe this is not a matter of being right or wrong. I mean, this is just part of our history, and it is what it is. Germon, good day, my friend, and chat room. Welcome, Hermon. WS Bill, we need more likes here. Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you for reminding me. So to all of you, if you could like our live stream, this is gonna help other people to be informed about the live stream. So I really appreciate if you could give us a like, because that helps with the audience, and the more people we have over here, naturally, more time we can invest on our live stream. Thank you so much, Bill, for reminding me. Really appreciate it. The likes do help us, particularly if you see some value in the content that is being shared over here. I'm gonna ask you to please like the live stream. All right. Hermon, how or where do you look up foreclosures in Brazil? Hermon, I think you're talking about foreclosures, right? Foreclosures, meaning that you have sellers in default, and I know that in the United States, foreclosures they are usually recorded at the county level with the registry of real estate records. So it is possible for people to know in a certain neighborhood if sellers if owners, homeowners are in default, meaning that they are not paying their mortgages, and therefore you could potentially approach this homeowner in default and try to work something out, right? Like, listen, I know you are not paying your mortgage. Eventually, your home is going to go to auction, and therefore, maybe I can buy your property, or I don't know what is the purpose, Hermon, if you want to, lend money to the homeowner, but not in Brazil, right? Like in Brazil, these type of records, they are forbidden by the Brazilian government from being made available, particularly as a database, okay? In theory, like if you have a target property, let's say there is a property, it could be in São Paulo, it could be in Rio, it could be anywhere, and you want to know if this property is free of liens, you can ask for the registry to provide you with a copy of the current title showing if there are liens attached to the property or not. But what you cannot do is to go to the registry and say, you know what, I'm going to create a database of foreclosures, and therefore, maybe we can work on a price for you to let me know, or for you to give me the names of everybody who is in default, right? This is like against our legal system, and it does not exist. Okay, not in a systematic manner. I would assume there is a lot of information that's exchanged under the table in Brazil. For instance, like in São Paulo, there is a neighborhood called Santa Efigênia. All right, I'm gonna write down over here. It's more like a curiosity. Santa Efigênia in São Paulo, and this place, is still known as like a neighborhood in São Paulo, or more specifically a street in São Paulo, in which you can buy, like technology items, right? If you want to buy computers, if you want to buy, electronics, if you want to buy this type of stuff, you're going to go to Santa Efigênia. However, in Santa Efigênia, they also have some type of shady business going on. And for instance, like in Brazil, it's very common for people to buy a device to access cable TV without paying for cable TV. In Portuguese, we call it gato, which is a word meaning cat. Okay, so the gato or the cat is going to be a device that you're going to buy in Santa Efigênia to access cable TV without paying a fee, right? So basically, you're stealing the cable TV content because you are watching all the content. You're not paying anything. You're just paying, to these guys who are creating a device to steal the cable TV content, right? So you buy this stuff on the street, like you are walking on Santa Efigênia, and you're gonna, see people offering the gato, the cat. In addition to that, they also sell what we call pirate software. So, like instead of buying a software that's gonna cost, I don't know, $1,000, AutoCAD, or something, really expensive and high end that you would need to pay, they are gonna have this type of software available for you to use it without paying. Of course, it's pirate, right? That's not how it is supposed to be. But you're going to see people on the streets, like sometimes they have a stand, and then they are going to have, the cat, the gato. They are going to have, CDs for you to buy the software and illegally use the software without paying a license. This is becoming more difficult because software nowadays is usually becoming a signature, a per month thing, right? You pay a membership. You have a membership, like for Microsoft Office, instead of paying a one-time fee like it was in the past. But they're still working on this segment, okay? So going back to your answer, in Santa Efigênia, they are going to sell databases that should not be sold. So you can buy a database, for instance, of retirees that you could offer some type of product or service. So they're going to sell a database with every single retiree in Brazil and their contact information, okay? And they have variations of such databases. And I never heard about a databases of foreclosures, but if there is a place in which you're going to find, and of course I'm not suggesting that you're going to go there, it's more like a curiosity about Brazil. This place would be Santa Efigênia, okay? But again, that's something under the table and illegal. So of course, I recommend you to not follow that route. Colby, if someone does an online consultation, will they be talking to you directly, or would they be one of the employees? So we have both cases. I do take some of the consultations, and our team, they also do take some of the consultations. If you want to talk to me, Colby, you can just write in the consultation form that you would like to talk to me. And we do honor such requests. So if you're picking a time that was actually available to be taken care by another attorney here at the firm, worst case scenario, they're going to say, listen, Colby, this time that you got is actually not suitable for Luciano to participate. And, I have these alternative dates and times, and then you have an option to say, yes, this would work, or if it doesn't work, then we can try to find a time more into the future, let's say for the next week. But yes, we do honor such requests. It's if you want to talk to me, you just need to mention that in the form, right? For those who do not know, we do charge for the consultation. The idea is that we provide a lot of free content, right? So if you want a free content, we have a ton of content in our website. We record videos. We have this live stream, which of course is completely free. But if you need something specific, if you want to send us, like an email, if you want to have your situation reviewed in a particular manner, then yes, you're going to pay a consultation for that. And also, just as information, the Brazilian Bar Association, they do not allow free consultations in Brazil. So if you are looking for Brazilian advisory, and if you hear a lawyer saying, "Listen, I provide like free consultation," it means like they are not following the ethical rules from the Brazilian Bar Association, and then you need to ask yourself if that's the type of attorney you want to work with, right? Like an attorney who's breaking the law from the get-go, or if you want to work with an attorney who's trying to play by the rules. Okay, that's another information for you to consider. Attorneys should not offer, free consultation, particularly when it's like a traditional classic consultation, right? Like maybe you're going to ask, well, but maybe you are providing free consultation right now, right? But the concept of consultation is like in a private manner, right? Here you have zero privacy, and there is no expectation of privacy. So here we are just like exchanging ideas. I'm not providing you with a consultation. So consultation, you go to our website, you're going to pick a time. Yes, if you want to talk to me, you are more than welcome to ask for my person to be the one assigned to your consultation. All right, Kobe? Herman, no, I'm not looking to do anything illegal. I'm looking to buy foreclosed properties from a bank for investment purposes. Yes, Herman, I completely understand. The idea was not to say that you were trying to do something illegal. And again, I know that this information in the United States, at least, is like public, right? So it's absolutely natural for you to ask that question. Okay, so in Brazil, we don't have such information available to the public. And usually investors who are working in this space, they are going to work with auction houses. And of course, it's not ideal, because once the property goes to auction, it's not like you're not getting into the game as early as you want. I understand you want to tackle, you want to address the opportunity before this thing goes to the auction. Okay, but since this thing is not available in Brazil, a list or information on properties going through foreclosure, I would say the next best thing, it may be for you to address auction houses that are traditional in the real estate space in Brazil. And usually you're going to see mostly properties that were foreclosed by the bank, and then they are going to be resold. They're going to be resold in an auction. Okay, it's just a heads up. It's very common in Brazil. The bank repossesses, or not repossesses, but recover the legal ownership of the entity because of lack of payment. But they don't get the possession back, right? Like, I mean, the buyer or the prior homeowner, they stop paying for the mortgage, and but they still live in the place, right? They say, well, I'm not going to pay anymore since I'm losing the ownership, come and get me, right? And there is a need for a legal process for you to remove this person. You can't just go there and say, well, I'm the new owner, and kick them off. So usually you need to consider that as a cost that you're going to have, because you're buying the property from the bank, and on top of that, you're going to need to probably hire a lawyer, to remove forcefully the prior homeowner from the apartment or the house. All right. I hope that's helpful for your planning, Herman. Kobe, I've read some horror stories about people who buy cars in Brazil and then later on they have a trouble servicing the car and getting parts due to the bureaucracy of the dealership. Yes. I don't know how to say that. I don't want it to look like I'm bad mouthing Brazil, but bureaucracy and red tape, they exist across the board, right? So like when you buy real estate in Brazil, we have around 300 activities that we complete on behalf of our clients, ranging from assisting with the negotiation, purchase agreement, due diligence, and to the closing. So about 300 activities. It's massive. It's like almost like when we bring a real estate client aboard, I feel like I'm marrying the client, right? Although I only act on the key aspects of the transaction, but every single day I'm gonna be watching what we are doing on behalf of the client. We have other people here at the firm. Some of you may know, like Patrick, we have Paulo, we have Victoria, we have Olivia, we have Justin, we have Kina, we have Camila. We have a whole team over here. But for real estate, I'm always at least reviewing what's being done. And it feels like I'm marrying like a client, right? Because it's like several months of work with a lot of interactions. But going back to your question, when you buy a car, yes, I mean, we have problems with supply chain. We have problems with dealers who don't want to honor, right? Like, I mean, they are a dealership. They represent a major brand. It could be like Ford. It could be Chevrolet. It could be, I don't know, Jeep. It could be any brand that comes to your mind. But at the end of the day, the dealership is run by an individual. Okay, it's not run by Ford. It's run by, I don't know, João da Silva, right? John Smith, who's the owner of the dealership, and he's going to be trying to avoid expenses. So whenever the dealership has an opportunity to deny service in Brazil, unfortunately, that may be the case. And because, it's almost like it's not a monopoly, but I mean, sometimes they say, listen, I am a dealership. I have the right to sell the cars. And if you don't want to deal with me, go deal with someone else, right? That's more or less their mentality. Of course, like over time, this could hurt them, because if people see that they don't take good care of their customers, why would they buy a car over there? But no matter the explanation, the reality is dealerships in Brazil, and I know, there are problems with dealerships in the United States and other countries, but usually in Brazil, the level of issues someone would have with a dealership, it looks like it's higher than it would be the case in a different country, okay? I wish I would have like some recommendation. Maybe, like you need to look at the dealership ratings, right? Like look at, the Google reviews and try to compare. And then you're going to pick the best option that's going to be on the table. All right, Kobe. But yes, I know about the horror stories. I've been through some of them myself, okay? But we do survive. I mean, it's just how things work in Brazil. Hermon, very, very helpful. Many thanks, my friend. Thank you, Hermon. Very interesting questions. I like when I get, different questions, because some of them, naturally, they are more repetitive. And for those of you who come consistently to our live stream, if I'm always answering the same questions, it kinds of become boring, right? Like my daughter, my teenager daughter says, I'm bored, right? I don't want you guys to be bored. So whenever we have interesting questions, different from the, these like more typical ones, I think it does bring, some additional level of interest to our live stream. Okay, Hermon. Ronnie, I want to be clear about the document required for property purchase. Do I need my birth certificate? with an apostille, even though I'm not applying for a Viper visa. I do know I need a CPF. Yes, Ronnie. So the CPF tax ID is pretty standard. Without a tax ID, you cannot legally own real estate in Brazil. So the CPF is a must. Now, the birth certificate is going to be a requirement for, I would say, 95% of the registries in Brazil. Okay, there is no single rule across the board. Registries or cartórios, right? The registry or cartório or notary public, these are different names for the same type of place. The registries, they are going to control the closing, and they are going to control the update of the title, so you have your name on the title after you buy the property. The thing with the birth certificate is that for the Brazilian government, right, or the Brazilian authorities, for Brazilian authorities to understand who you are, they need to know the names of your parents. If we don't know the names of your parents, it's like we don't know who you are. Okay, from the Brazilian legal system perspective. So, the Brazilian authorities and registries, they are pretty attached to a birth certificate. Okay, so I would say, Ronnie, that even if you're not applying for any visa whatsoever, you're still gonna need your birth certificate, okay, with an apostille. There's some exceptions, but because there are exceptions, I'm not going to address over here. But there you go. The answer is 95% of the time you do need a birth certificate. An exception, like if you're married, right? Let's say Ronnie is married to Mary, okay? If Ronnie and Mary are going to buy a property in Brazil and they are married and they have a marriage certificate, and the marriage certificate has the names of the parents for Ronnie and Mary, most probably than not, the registry would accept the certificate of marriage without requiring the birth certificate, because here they are going to find all the information they need in your marriage certificate. So instead of handling two birth certificates, they are going to say, you know what, just give me this marriage certificate and I have what I need. And then on its turn, like the marriage certificate is going to need the apostille, right? The apostille is going to be needed for a document from abroad to be recognized in Brazil. Kobe, personally, what car brand in your experience has the best service? Would it be worth for a foreigner to buy a car in Brazil? Thanks for the response. I think, nowadays, buying a Japanese car in Brazil, it's a smart choice. It's going to be usually more expensive than other brands. But the good thing about the Japanese car is that usually you don't need service in the first place, right? So if you buy, for instance, a Honda Civic, right? Honda Civic in the U.S. is more like cars for, younger adults. Like if you have someone who's, let's say, the head of a family, this head of a family, usually this person is not going to buy a Honda Civic. This person is going to buy a Honda Accord, or I don't know, like a Honda Odyssey, right? A Honda Accord or a Pilot. But this person is not going to buy a Honda Civic. In Brazil, however, a Honda Civic is a really high-end car, and you don't even find a Honda Accord or a Honda Odyssey to be sold in Brazil, even if you have the money. If you want to have a Honda Accord, you're going to need to import this car, and it's going to cost you a fortune. But if you buy a Honda Civic, for instance, like this is going to be a really high-end car, and you're going to have like some planned maintenance visits to the dealership, kind of like it happens in the United States. But I like, Japanese cars a lot because, again, you don't even need to rely on the dealership if you're buying like a new car. Like you could have a Honda Civic in Brazil running for 10 years, without maintenance, right? Now, if you buy, a Ford car, if you buy a Chevrolet car, if you buy a Volkswagen, which is super popular in Brazil. Volkswagen is not popular in the US, but it's super popular in Brazil. Then yes, you're gonna need to have visits often to a dealership, to have this car fixed, and that's when the horror stories are gonna occur. But Japanese cars, I mean, they're so reliable, they're so above the rest in terms of reliability that would be my suggestion. Like, and if you want to have a Honda Civic, which is a more flashy car in Brazil, there is another version, like a smaller version, is Honda City, like a City. And this Honda is like a smaller version of the Honda Civic. Is more affordable. Is not as flashy as a Honda Civic is in Brazil, and it's a very reliable car, right? They also have the Honda Fit. Honda Fit is like the tiny one. I think it is too small, like particularly if you have if you want to drive with, I don't know, like someone else, like a partner and a couple of additional people. The car is too small. So the Honda City maybe is the best choice. That would be my recommendation as a car, unless you want to go a little bit flashier, and then you can have the Honda Civic. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Kobe, all right. WS, Bill, I appreciate all you do. Bill, I appreciate your presence here, Bill. Bill is a very strong support of our channel, of our live streams. He's going to make the time to follow us, and I really appreciate Bill. All right, we have Captain Singh. Welcome back, Captain Singh. I'm sure there is an alternative way in case birth certificate is not possible. Brazilian laws can be depending on birth certificates. Brazilian government is intelligent enough to find many ways. That's an interesting statement, Captain Singh. And yes, so in cases when a person cannot obtain a birth certificate, the Brazilian government may be willing, right, or the cartório or the registry may be willing to accept alternative paperwork, but this is going to be on a case-by-case basis. And I guarantee that you're going to have a hard time, okay? So the answer to your proposition is yes. If there is no way a birth certificate can be produced, there are going to be alternative routes, but you're going to have a hard time, and you got to avoid this exception by all means, all right? So if it is very hard for you to get your birth certificate, I would say, bite the bullet and do whatever you need to do to produce the birth certificate, because you need to explain the exception, and usually they are going to evaluate the exception not from a personal perspective, right? So they are not concerned, Captain Singh is going to spend a boatload of money to fly back to his country and get a birth certificate. That's not enough reason, right? Reasons that we dealt with in the past are going to be, for instance, there was a client. She was from Sudan, right? And Sudan, it has like this constant like civil wars. And she said, listen, I cannot go back to Sudan because I would be risking my life to go back to Sudan, right? So in this case, what we did, it was to provide enough evidence that, the country was under war, there was a substantial risk to our client's life in order for her to go get this birth certificate. And we were able to convince the consulate, the Brazilian consulate, I don't recall if it was in New York or San Francisco, to accept a translation like that she had. So it wasn't even an original. It wasn't like it was just a translation that she had. But the translation had been issued in the United States, so it had like the certified translator seals and so on. So we were able to make the Brazilian consulate to accept that as an exception. But listen, just to highlight the challenge, the consulate said, listen, now on my side, I was able to waive the birth certificate requirement. But when you are down in Brazil, when you are registering as a foreign citizen, right? Because first you get the visa and then you travel into Brazil and then you need to register as a foreign citizen in order for you to get the RNEMA, the identification card as a foreign citizen. You're gonna need to have another plea with the Brazilian Federal Police. In other words, the consulate was saying, you did convince me, but now you're gonna need to convince the Brazilian Federal Police, which would be like a second challenge, okay? So that's why I'm telling you first, even if it is super difficult for you to obtain the birth certificate, I still advise you to go after and try to obtain. And if there is no way you can do it, then yes, you can petition, but this is going to be on an exception basis, and it's going to require more money, effort, and time and aggravation. I hope that was helpful, Captain Singh. Keith Well, thanks for the info. I never considered that some may not even consider it a cope, but that makes sense depending on varying politics and perceptions. Yes, Kit. Like during the last president, right? Like under President Bolsonaro, they were even granting, some of the military personnel that participated in the golpe. They were doing things like, granting some type of a title to the person, saying, "Wow, this person was such a special person. We need, to have some type of honorary title to this military person," right? So that was happening under President Bolsonaro, which, by the way, still has half the country intention of votes, right? And now the left took power for President Lula. From what I can tell, it was a fair election. Okay, there was no games played, like in terms of changing the votes. So now the left is in power, and it is changing that position from the prior government. Going back to this idea that it was a golpe, it was a coup. So it is more like consolidating the coup approach. But the prior administration was actually revising this thing like big time, saying there was no coup. I mean, there was actually the military like saving the country from the communists, right? But yes, Kit, it is it does depend on the person's political orientation. Guys, we are almost done with our live stream today. I believe we have another live stream already scheduled for Sunday. So if you think about some interesting topic to have discussed, like it's not going to be discussed today, but we could discuss on Sunday. And so this live stream is already scheduled as we speak. It's just a matter of you going to our page, you click on notify me. And so once the live stream, I'm not sure if it is once the live stream goes live or it is like a little bit before the live stream, but you're going to get a notification from YouTube about the live stream. Captain Singh, Mr. Oliveira, my friend, will use your services and your vast experience. I'm sure you'll find out the beauty of Brazil and Brazilian is that they can prepare anything out of nothing. I appreciate Captain Singh. We're going to be here, happy to assist you. Keep well, valeu, até mais. Moses Migbao, welcome Moses. Sir, due to the massive construction of properties in São Paulo, I feel that there will come a time when there will be too many apartments, more than people can buy, right? Very interesting position, Moses. So this is going to be the last one for our live stream. And Moses, it could kind of feel that way, but don't forget, like São Paulo is like the main city in Brazil. From a revenue perspective, it is massive, right? Like, I mean, when you compare São Paulo City and São Paulo State to the rest of the country, it's almost like we are, or São Paulo is half of the country in terms of, gross product and services and innovation, whatever you think. Like, I mean, it's not like the United States. I think is more balanced, right? Like you have Texas, you have California, you have New York, you have Colorado, you have a bunch of states like innovating in the Rust Belt area, right? Like, so there are so many leaderships in the United States. In Brazil, not so much, right? Like, I mean, Rio de Janeiro is also a big city, but from an economic perspective, I mean, it does not compare to São Paulo, right? So when you say that São Paulo has a massive number of buildings, being built as we speak, first thing I'm gonna agree, right? I was in São Paulo until Sunday, so like a couple of days ago, right? And it's impressive. Everywhere you go, you're gonna see new buildings in the works and throughout the city. It does not matter if it is downtown, if it is like in the neighborhoods or in the suburbs. You're gonna see construction everywhere. But São Paulo is like we say, the locomotiva do país, or the chief car of the Brazil train. Maybe there could be some market correction down the road. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's gonna be, but what we actually see is that São Paulo keeps just growing. Okay, it keeps just growing, and it's certainly like the main city of Brazil by far. A good thing about São Paulo is not constrained by geographical barriers like New York City. Right, New York City has a bunch of geographical limitations. It's a really difficult city for you to move between the boroughs, and after COVID, like people are leaving New York City in droves, okay, and that does not happen with São Paulo, because São Paulo location is very suitable for expansion. The São Paulo governments, they've been doing a good job in terms of keeping infrastructure, for you just to give you an idea, like São Paulo has a number of treaties with other cities and countries. Maybe São Paulo has more treaties with other countries than Brazil. Okay, so São Paulo is almost like a country by itself, right? Just think about it. Like São Paulo has more treaties, like kind of treaties, like economic treaties, commercial pacts, and they have development programs than the entire country. Okay, so just for you to factor that into your reasoning, Moses. But you are absolutely right. For whoever is visiting São Paulo as you speak, the number of construction sites, it's massive. I agree with you. All right, Ronnie, Ronnie says, thank you very much for your help. Even with the bureaucracy, I still love Brazil. So do I, Ronnie. We are all on the same page. Brazil is definitely a great place for you to go, to retire, to have a property, to have your life, okay? And I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you again on Sunday. You take care.